Hello everyone, it's Nina and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I thought I would do kind of like a sequel to a video I did a couple months ago, which if you haven't seen it, I will definitely link it above. But I wanted to go through all of the movies and TV shows that I watched in the last 3 months during the summertime. In the previous video, I only gave kind of detailed summaries and my thoughts on my favorites from the overall list. But I thought in this one, I'm gonna give a sentence or two review of every single thing, just to go more into detail on my thoughts on them. I think probably going forward, I will do these a little bit more regularly, maybe quarterly, just so I can go more into detail and not have this video be super long. Anyway, with that all being said, let's get right into the video. Starting off, I wanted to talk about some of the things I actually forgot to talk about last time. I've also decided to include other media, specifically just musicals and plays, because I've gone to quite a few of those this last year, which is a little atypical for me. And I actually do have more plans on going to some musicals and plays for the rest of the year. So I figured I would include those as well. Okay, one thing that I forgot to talk about that I can't believe I forgot to talk about this because it is so iconic, but in April, we ended up watching The Room, directed by Tommy Wiseau, also starring and written by Tommy Wiseau. I can't believe I forgot to talk about this because it was my first time watching The Room. I mean, what can you really say about this, though, that hasn't already been said? I feel like it's awful, but also just so baffling. I do feel, though, I feel like this would have hit a lot harder if I didn't know all of the really iconic lines. Definitely the lines that have stood out to me now are ones that I hadn't seen repeated ad nauseum online previously. The one that's entered me and my wife's lexicon the most is the scene when Johnny has himself locked in the bedroom and he's fighting with Lisa and she asks him to come out and he says, "In a few minutes, bitch." So funny and so iconic. Okay, I'm gonna talk about all of the Broadway shows that we've been seeing lately. The first one we also saw in April, and that was Glengarry Glen Ross. We specifically went because we wanted to see the actors that were featured in it, most notably Bob Odenkirk, who plays Saul in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, was acting in this, as well as Bill Burr, Michael McKean, and Kieran Culkin. I think I liked this because I liked seeing the actors, but as for a play on its own, it was kind of eh. I've heard that the movie adaptation is actually really good, and also I think includes a monologue that is pretty iconic, but it's actually not from the original play. So I don't know, I might eventually check out the movie version in the future. But as for a play, it was nice because of, again, the cast was really great, but I don't know if I would have gone to see this play otherwise. In July, we ended up seeing 2 different musicals. The first one was we went to see Cabaret on Broadway. This one is another one I went specifically for the cast. I really wanted to see Orville Peck while he was playing the MC. I'm a huge Orville Peck fan. I've seen him twice in concert. I think he's an amazing performer, and I thought this would be so fun to go see him. I wasn't super familiar with Cabaret before this, but I thought the musical was amazing. I thought the entire cast was great. Specifically, a lot of the actors in the ensemble was really cool. I liked the in the round seating that they did for this musical. I think technically our seats were in the back, but again, because it's usually framed in a way where the characters are kind of facing side to side, it doesn't really feel like you're missing out that much, or necessarily that our seats were bad by any means. But yes, overall, I thought this was incredible. This is another one where I definitely want to check out the movie adaptation as well. And for the last musical we've seen so far, so 2 weeks later, we ended up going back to New York to see the Heathers musical. This is the only one of the 3 shows that we saw that I was very familiar with ahead of time. I've listened to the Heathers soundtrack previously. I've seen the movie that it's based on. I also, I think probably back in 2017 or so, saw a slime tutorial of one of the performances, but I was really excited to finally be able to see it in person. My wife previously, I think, had seen a kind of local production back in Chicago, which I think her and her sibling went to kind of randomly, but they had a really good time, and that kind of sparked our general interest in the Heathers musical. Anyway, the current off-Broadway production that's, I think, on until January of 2026 was insanely good. It was really funny. I thought the entire cast was great, and you could really feel the love from the audience because so many people were dressed up, our entire group included. So yes, this was really great. Highly recommend if you're still looking for a off-Broadway show to check out. I thought this one was really good. I also really liked where it was. It was in the New World Stages, which is almost like a movie theater setting that has 4 or 5 theaters in the same building, which I thought was really unique and also a really good use of space. Definitely would consider going to see another musical in the same venue. Okay, now let's move on to all the movies and TV shows that I have watched in the last 3 months. We're going to start off by talking about all of the things I watched in June. There's quite a few of them. I had a very big movie watching month in June. The very first thing we watched was Judas and the Black Messiah. This is definitely a very rough watch, but was really, really good. I think we primarily watched it because of the fact that Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield are the two main leads. Daniel Kaluuya really can't miss. He was amazing in this role. I'm pretty sure he won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for this, which kind of doesn't make any sense because he is basically the main character. I don't know why he's not put in for the Best Leading Actor role, but I'm sure that's a whole debate that has gone on previously online. But yeah, he was amazing and definitely deserved any Oscar that he got. You realize also really quickly as we go through this list that I kind of am all over the place in terms of my interests, because the next movie that we watched after this was 10 Things I Hate About You. I thought this movie was very cute, but definitely not life-changing. My wife is a big Heath Ledger fan, so it's fun to see him in this teen heartthrob role because he is just so charming. Even though it's probably not going to be a long-term fave for me, I definitely understand the appeal of this movie overall. The next movie we watched, primarily inspired both by the fact that I had recently watched The Room, and also because I read the book that this movie is based on, we ended up watching The Disaster Artist, which is a biopic movie based on the memoir of the same name by Greg Sestero. I thought this movie was really good, but I do actually prefer the book. I feel like it gets obviously a lot more in depth because it is a book versus a movie. However, I think the things they changed and added in made a lot of sense for the overall flow of the movie. And I think it also is kind of funny that James Franco and Dave Franco are playing Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero despite being brothers. Boo James Franco in this house, but I think Dave Franco was really cute and definitely really fit as Greg. Okay, the next set of movies that we watched was the entirety of the Twilight Saga. During Ivoria's bachelorette party, one of her requests for us as guests was to have the entirety of the Twilight movies playing in a big marathon over the course of the weekend that we were away. So we ended up watching all of them. To be honest, I was not really present for most of Breaking Dawn Part 1 because I think that is the worst one. I think it's the most boring and also the most gross, so it's kind of the worst of both worlds. The first one obviously is iconic and a classic. My review of New Moon is, I don't hate this as much as everyone else does, but I also know that it's not good by any measure as well. I do think Eclipse is probably the most underrated of the Twilight movies. Like I just said, Breaking Dawn Part 1 I don't really enjoy, but Breaking Dawn Part 2 is completely underrated camp. The performances in this are so bizarre, as well as some of the narrative things that they obviously change if you have not already seen the Twilight movies. If you haven't watched the Twilight movies before, you're in for such a treat if you watch this for the first time and haven't been spoiled. Okay, now we can move into the movies I watched in July. The first one that we watched was Memento, directed by Christopher Nolan, making more progress in me and my wife's goal to watch all of the Christopher Nolan movies. This one is so weird and difficult to follow, but that's obviously the point. It's basically told in two timelines that go back and forth, in color and in black and white, and one set of them is entirely in reverse chronological order, with the purpose of kind of mimicking the main character's mental condition, where he can't remember things beyond 5 minutes in the past. So you kind of are going in with the same sense of exploration and confusion that the main character is in. But yeah, we did really, really enjoy this one. The next movie that we watched, truly out of nowhere, we watched Bartok the Magnificent. This is a spin-off movie from the Anastasia animated movie by Don Bluth. It's an hour. I feel very much can you really say that much about it? It's a kid's movie that's an hour long. Actually, there was a lot to say about it because what the heck is up with the character design process? There were some character designs in this movie that I'm they are not in the same movie as everyone else. It's very, very strange. We ended up watching this movie because my wife is a huge Anastasia fan, and we actually had talked about it and Anastasia to a group of our friends, and they ended up watching it and were you have to report back after you've watched Bartok. So we ended up watching it. Okay, next movie I watched in July is a big one, I think, for a lot of people this year, which is Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler. This is amazing, truly. There's a reason why it has been so hyped up and is considered the movie of the year for a lot of people. I have two main requests for this movie, though. The first is that they have to release a sing-along version, because this movie is essentially a musical. There's quite a few songs in it, and all of them are diegetic, and all of them are pretty iconic. The only other thing is that I kind of wish that there was more, not because I feel it's lacking, but because I just want to learn so much more and become immersed in this world, and all of the lore of the characters. There's just so much packed into this movie. The next movie that we watched in July was Eddington, directed by Ari Aster. I think I talked about this in my swapping my screen time vlog, where we actually went on a little date night and saw this movie at a independent movie theater. I honestly have a lot of things to say about this. I was so sure going into it that I was going to hate this, and I felt like I read so many think pieces about it ahead of time to kind of like brace myself, but I actually really liked it. I feel like it's got a dark humor in it that's almost like absurdist at some points that made me and my wife kind of like laugh out loud and like whisper to each other in the movie theater. I was also very nervous about going into this movie just based on the level of gore, because I don't really like gore. Person that famously loves the TV show Hannibal but also hates gore, make it make sense. But I felt like the gore was probably on the same level as No Country for Old Men. So I had that kind of like as a reference point, and I wasn't too grossed out. But this movie has a lot going on. It's very not hand-holdy. Ari Aster is very much like, here you go, and you have to like kind of figure out everything that's going on yourself. But overall, I thought it was shot really well and edited really well. It has a lot to say, and I feel like it definitely will hold up on like a rewatch or two. Okay, next movie we ended up watching, I think because we were on like a sinner's kick, we wanted to watch another Ryan Coogler movie, so we ended up seeing Black Panther. I had previously seen this, but my wife had not. I think it's very good for a Marvel movie, TM. It definitely really shines in the costume and set design. I do believe it's one of the most like critically acclaimed and beloved Marvel movies, but at the end of the day, at least for me, it is just like another Marvel movie, which is just like overall a genre I do feel like I have a lot of fatigue from. So while I like this, I don't necessarily think Marvel movies as a whole are something that I go back to very often. I know I just said all of that kind of trashing Marvel superhero movies, but we did also decide to go see Superman in theaters. This movie was so good. Both a very like classic but also like refreshing take on the superhero movie genre. I think really distilling and getting back to specifically what is special about Superman as a character, with a heavy emphasis on like the importance and the strength that can be found in empathy. Seeing this movie and kind of like hearing some of the things that Gunn has said about it really reminds me a lot of a quote from Vince Gilligan, who is the creator of Breaking Bad, that currently has a new series that's going to be coming out in 2025 called Pluribus. He was saying that when he created the character of Walter White, having a like anti-hero or villain main character was kind of rare on TV, but now he feels like having like a good person as the main character is a lot less common. But we kind of really should get back to having legitimately good people as our main characters so they can be like seen as like more role models. And I feel like that is kind of the same thing that's going on with Superman. We've had so many like grim, dark, gritty superheroes that are, I guess, like more morally complex. At the same time, it's kind of nice to have someone that is like so pure, kind of like motivated to do the right thing attitude that Superman does in this movie. So I think it's really, really good and definitely like a refreshing take. As much as I obviously do love Christopher Nolan, he really definitely like set the tone for those like more grim, dark superhero movies with the Dark Knight trilogy. But like a lot of them just like aren't doing it as well as he did. Okay, moving on, I think now to talk about the movies I watched in August. The first one, kind of like going off of the superhero train, again in the like grimdark direction, is Chronicle. This is a found footage superhero horror thriller movie that follows 3 teenagers that after they discover this strange crystal, end up finding out that they have telekinetic superpowers and kind of the divulging paths that all of them go down. This movie is such a downer, but it's really, really good. I feel like there's maybe a lot of maybe like even unintentional parallels between the main character of this movie and the like incel movement and the like kind of manosphere alt-right pipeline that a lot of young men go down. That makes it still like a very relevant watch even like 10 years later since it's come out. It's also, I think, pretty short. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes. Definitely not a very enjoyable watching experience, but I did think it was a really good movie. The next movie we watched in August was Challengers, directed by Luca Guadagnino. This is my very first time seeing a Luca Guadagnino movie. My wife had previously watched Bones and All and didn't really enjoy it, but obviously this movie was everywhere last year. I thought the cinematography and the script and the score of the movie were really, really good. I felt like overall it was very artfully done. I kind of both love and hate the ending for how open-ended it is. I feel like we maybe just needed a little bit more direction, either with like extending the ending or with some more like setup earlier on to kind of understand how we're supposed to feel about the characters in the very end and understand their own mental state, because it felt a little confusing in some parts. I also feel like this movie was definitely pitched more to me as being about a polyamorous throuple, but I don't necessarily know if it really came to fruition as much as I would have liked. So those parts were definitely a little bit of a letdown, but overall I did really enjoy this and definitely think you should check it out, specifically if you like tennis. I don't know too much about tennis besides having read Carrie Soto's back, but I feel like if you're already a tennis fan, you'll probably really enjoy this. Okay, and the last movie I watched in August was Kill Your Darlings. I really, really liked this. This is a like biopic / true crime movie that talks about the members in the Beat Generation, Specifically, it's about the main character Allen Ginsberg during his first year at Columbia, following his relationship with a fellow student who ends up killing one of their friends. I ended up really liking this. I thought all of it was really good. A really good script. I thought the performances were really great. The main character is played by Daniel Radcliffe. I think like probably 1 year post the end of the Harry Potter series. And I thought he was really good in this movie. I thought all the performances were really great. Overall, I thought it was also very well shot, and I feel like it was designed to tell the story very well. I actually recently was watching a YouTube video that had some of the deleted scenes, and I was like, yeah, I kind of understand why these were deleted, because the way it's framed in the movie so far, with like the ending and everything, I thought made a lot of sense, and probably would have gotten muddled if these other deleted scenes were added back in. So overall, I thought the editing, and again, the way the story was told was done really well. My opinion of like the real life members of the Beat Generation, kind of all negative, but at least their portrayals and characters in this movie, all of it was really good. And I really enjoyed my time watching it. Definitely could see myself eventually maybe rewatching this or owning a DVD copy in the future. So that is a full look at all of the movies and TV shows and plays and musicals that I saw in the last 3 months. Since I have been really upping my movie game in 2025, I can definitely see myself doing another one of these videos probably another 3 months from now. So consider subscribing if you'd like to see that video when it comes out. But that is going to be it for me today. If you'd like this video, consider also watching the first one in the series I did, talking about the movies and TV shows I had watched for the first part of the year up above. Consider also following me on the Storygraph as well as my Bookstagram, which are linked in the description. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!